Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
Thanks for checking into the best Houston sports podcast. And joining me is former Texans and Lions Pro Bowl defensive back Glover Quin, who now co-hosts the Believe and Lions podcast, covering the Detroit Lions as part of the Believe Network. Oh, man, great to catch up with you, Glover. Do you miss Houston at all?
Oh, man, I mean, I actually live here. So,
you're still here?
Oh, yeah, I live here. But I do miss being, I guess, I would say on the inside, I guess, as part of a Texans member. But yeah, I live here. I live on the west side a little bit, so I still get my my Houston fix.
What was your favorite part about, just playing for the Texans and being a part of the program as they got to their first playoffs?
The atmosphere was just so electric. It just felt like, I can remember driving to the games, getting there early in the morning, and it's just so many people out tailgating and walking the streets, and it just felt like you were going to a football game, and I've been to almost every stadium, and you pull up to some stadiums and there's nobody out around the stadium. And, some places have other off-site, I guess, tailgating places. Like in Detroit, they didn't tailgate right around the stadium, right? They had like this park or this place that was designated for tailgating, but it wasn't right around the stadium. So when you pulled up to the game, you didn't see any of the tailgating. They could have been having a party going on over there, but you never saw it because it wasn't right next to the stadium. Whereas in Houston, you pull up, you see everybody, you smell the food, it just was a crazy cool environment. And then, those years that we were winning a division, 2011, 2012, the atmosphere inside was electric every game. So that was fun. And, the fans were incredible. And, it's Houston. It's a football city.
Texans fans were not happy when the organization let you go. Is it true they didn't even make an offer?
Yeah, that's true.
What happened?
I honestly don't know. Well, I mean, I guess I felt like, from what I've heard, I don't know. I think the GM at the time got word that Ed Reed would be available. We had made it to the playoffs 2 years in a row and got bounced in the second round. And they were looking for someone to try to get over that hump. And so Ed, having the experience that he had, the resume that he had, they felt like, okay, Ed could be a guy that could help get us over the hump. They had paid Danielle Manning, they had paid Jonathan Joseph, Kareem Jackson was on his first round contract deal. And so giving me some money at that time, being the young up and coming guy, I think they wanted to get somebody that had a little more experience. And so they never offered me. They went after Ed and they got Ed, and they got Ed.
Yeah, so, that didn't work out too well.
Nah, because I think, when you think about it, you can't forget about the journey. You can't forget about every little thing that goes into it. Yeah, you can look and say, hey, we've got bounced in the second round the last 2 years. We need to get over that hump. But you can't automatically put yourself back at that hump. You got to get back to that hump. So you got to go through all the steps the next year to get back to that point. And then hopefully you're able to get over that hump. And I think they just assumed that we would be right back at that hump the next year. And they kind of let go a lot of us, They let me go. They let Connor Barwin go. I think James Casey left. There's a lot of guys from the 09 class that left. I think the only two guys that stayed from the 09 class was Brian Cushing. He was our first rounder. And Bryce McCain, I think he signed late as a 6th rounder. So everybody else, I think they let go. But I was a glue piece to the defense. We had a lot of superstars on that defense. And, I was kind of like that unknown piece of glue, I guess, that kind of kept everybody together. So it all worked out because I was telling some people that, I think if I would have stayed in Houston, I don't know if they would ever gave me a chance to be a star because we had so many stars. Like I said, we had a young J.J. Watt, we had J. Joe and Brian Cushing and, so many guys that I don't know if I would have ever been put in a position to be a star or to excel or be like that guy. I think I would have always been like that little young boy glue piece to just kind of do every little thing to make the engine go, but never really get the credit for making the engine go. So it all worked out. I still got love for the city. I still got love for the fans. The fans still love me. I still love them. The players, we still cool. The organization, I don't have anything against the organization. It just is what it is.
I want to ask you about one of the guys that you played with in just a second, but just a quick reminder to support the show by subscribing and commenting if you're watching this on YouTube. And for those watching, don't forget you can listen on the run with your favorite podcast app. But Glover, you spent your first 3 seasons playing with DeMeco Ryans. What are your memories of playing with DeMeco?
I mean, DeMeco was incredible. True leader, true captain. It was incredible for me to come in as a rookie and be in the same locker room on the same field as DeMeco. He was one of those guys that when he said something, we listened. He did it. We could be on the field in the middle of a play. He feels something. He started checking the call. Then everybody's doing whatever DeMeco said. Coach might have called this, but bump it. DeMeco said, do this. Then this is what we're doing. He was just one of those type of guys. He had that relationship with the coach from, just his studying and his, IQ of the game. Because, sometimes you're out there and, we may have a all-out blitz called and sometimes somebody tipped their hand or whatever and the quarterback sees it. He starts checking. DeMeco's like, oh, nah, bro. Like, you see that we're in the all-out blitz and you're checking to some play to try to score a touchdown. No, we're going to check out of this all-out blitz and check to something that's going to help us. And it's kind of like a cat and mouse game. And so just seeing him present every day, working hard, even though he didn't like conditioning, he used to do it. You have some of those guys that don't like it and they always find a way to get out of it, come up lame, lay down. It's the off season, don't feel like running. DeMeco didn't like doing the condition, but he did it. We still have fun and make, joke about it a little bit, different players and stuff every time, but it's just how he was. And he's a great guy. So I was so excited to see him come back to Houston, come back home and try to get that culture back to what it used to be, what it needs to be for a city like this. I think he has a great connection with the city. I think he'll get the city back involved, back excited like they should be. And then I think and hope the product on the field will match that.
You still keep in pretty close touch with him?
I mean, I don't talk to him like on the phone or anything like that, but we've communicated. I saw him at the building when he got here, but I don't call him or text him or anything like that. I'm not gonna make it seem like I do all that stuff. But when we see each other, we do talk, and I'm sure if I text him or called him, he'd answer the phone. I just choose not to do that. He got plenty of things to worry about.
He didn't say anything to you when you saw him that press conference about, hey, maybe Glover, you can come out and talk to my DBs, or is you think about coming out and helping the guys out at all, or is that a possibility?
And if that's something that he wants, I don't have a problem coming out and lending a voice, helping out, wherever it's needed. I'm not one of those guys that just sit there and just like, hey man, let me come do this, let me come do that. I'm available. I'm here in the city. He knows me. He knows who I was as a player. He knows how I am. And so if he wants me to come out and say something, talk, whatever, I'll be more than willing to do whatever I can to help him and his team be successful, because I want to see him do well. And, like I said, I live here. The Texans were the team that gave me my first opportunity to play in the NFL. So I got love for the team. So I want to see the team do well. I want to see the organization do well. I went to Detroit. They were the team that, wanted me in free agency. And so I still keep up with those guys. I want to see those guys do well. I have no ill feelings against either one of these organizations. And so if any one of them need me to do anything to try to help out as far as full-time coaching, I don't know about that. But I'm sure there's some kind of role that if they want me to play or to have, I would be willing to take a look at it.
Did you get a chance to watch him much last year? Did you get a chance to see the rookie Jalen Petrie, the safety?
No, I actually didn't, and that was funny. Well, not funny, but it's kind of crazy. I didn't get to watch. I don't think I watched a single Texans game because, I was doing the Believe in Lions podcast, so
sure.
I was having to watch if I had to choose, I had to watch the Lions game so I can understand, see what was going on, so we would be able to talk about it. I don't think I watched a single Texans game, like at least from start to finish. So no, I didn't get to see the young safety.
I want to go back to your rookie year because it's crazy to look back at this coaching staff, your rookie year in 2009. That staff, if people don't know, Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, Robert Saleh, and Mike McDaniel had just left the year before. What do you remember about that staff and those guys?
I mean, I just remember, they were young, and Matt LaFleur, he was like the quarterback coach or offensive quality guy with Kyle Shanahan. And Robert Saleh, he was like quality control, like linebacker, helper, just kind of doing the dirty work. So I spent a lot of time with Saleh because, we're doing scout team, and he's out there on the field early, setting up. I was out there on the field early, getting myself ready to play. So me and Coach Saleh, we spent a lot of time just talking and, just talking about the game. And he was young and, hungry and trying to move up in the coaching ranks, obviously. But he was putting in the work. He was putting in his time. And, the same with LaFleur. And so, Kyle Shanahan was Kyle Shanahan. He was just a young coordinator at the time. But he was exciting, watching him in practice. We used to, do scout team stuff. And they will have us, do this and do that. And it'd be guys running wide open down the sideline. We used to be on the sideline like, bro, they ain't going to be that wide open in the game. And sure enough, we would get in the game and guys would be like that wide open. It's just incredible how he could like just draw up plays or whatever and call them at the right time. I say that to people all the time. Like, man, it's crazy that we had all those guys on the same staff. And that's how Robert Saleh, I think, ends up with Kyle Shanahan, because when Kyle's the offensive coordinator, he's working hand in hand with the defensive guy that runs the scout team, because the scout team is the team that's giving the offense a look to prepare for the game. So Coach Saleh was running the defensive scout team. So then Coach Saleh is having to spend a lot of time with Kyle Shanahan, making sure that the plays are right, making sure that the guys are doing what he wanted them to do. So I'm sure him and Kyle got really close. Then Kyle gets a head coaching job or gets in a position. He can hire Coach Saleh. It just goes from there.
You hear a lot of people talk about the Shanahan system, which we saw with Kubiak and the Kubiak system, some people would call it, but it's all part of that same family tree. Do you think there's too much made of the system? You think this is more Kyle Shanahan and his brain, or do you feel like it's all in the same sort of category, in the same family? Like, how do you differentiate those two?
I mean, I think it's all in the same category, but at the end of the day, every person is going to be different. You know what I'm saying? We can all sit under the same lesson and learn the same things, but at the end of the day, there's going to be things that you learn, and there's going to be ways that you feel like, you know what, we can get the same thing done, but we can do it this way. And I can sit in there and learn the same exact thing, but my brain and the way I am is probably going to tell me something totally different. And so I think at the end of the day, that's what you have. It's a system, but Kyle Shanahan just gets to put his spin on it. He's been in it for years. He knows it inside and out. And so he gets to put his own spin, his own creativity into it. You know what I'm saying? Things that we're doing now in 2023, they wasn't doing back in 1997. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, it's a system built around certain principles and things like that. But Kyle has been able to, be innovative and put his own spin on it and, do some different things with it. But, that's just kudos to him for evolving in the offense and doing more, but also understanding the roots and where it come from and keeping some of those principles.
You played with some Hall of Famers down the line, and I want to start off with Andre Johnson. You lined up against him in practice quite a bit. What do you tell people? What do you tell kids? Maybe your kids or your nephews and nieces. I don't know. What do you tell them about Dre? What's your favorite Dre story?
Well, I'm just like Dre. When I first got to Houston, Dre was like a legend. I was on the same team with Dre, and it took me probably a month to even speak to Dre because I felt like I couldn't even speak to him. Like, man, I can't say anything to Dre right now. Me and my roommate, we used to come back to the room every day and be like, "Bro, did you speak to Dre today?" And he was like, "Nah, bro, not today." You know what I'm saying? He was just that, like, he had that aura about him, but he worked, man. And I remember lining up against him in practice, and I didn't talk any noise. And he didn't either. He just went out, went to work, and did his thing. I remember one day I caught an interception in OTAs, and I had returned it. And as I'm running back to get back on defense, Dre sticks his hand out and like give me like a little low five. I went back to the sideline. I told my roommate, I'm like, bro, Dre dapped me up. I think I'm gonna speak to him today. You know what I'm saying? And that's just kind of how it was. So we basically kind of built our relationship. I didn't come in just trying to be super cool with Dre just because he was Dre and I wanted to be, I don't know, say I was cool with Dre. I just wanted to come in and earn my respect. I wanted to earn my keep with all the guys. And that's just kind of how I went about my business. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to play. I'm going to compete when it's between the whistles, between the lines. I got to compete. I remember going through the draft process, and that was one thing that the coach that used to call me all the time, Perry Carter, that's one thing he used to say, when he was just kind of asking me questions about the draft and stuff. He would always say, if we bring you in, you ain't going to be scared to compete with Andre, right? Like, you ain't going to be scared when you line up in front of Andre. And I was just like, at the time, I'm saying whatever. Nah, I ain't going to be scared. Man, I'm ready to go. You know what I'm saying? Because I wanted to get drafted or whatever. And that first day of practice, when it actually really happened, and you line up in front of Andre Johnson, you like, oh snap! All right, here we go. This Andre, I can't be scared. I can't be scared. But oh snap, this Andre. But it was cool, man. It was cool. I had the luxury of playing with Andre Johnson and left him, and went with Calvin Johnson, and so it was just incredible time for me.
Yeah, you just picked it up right where I was going to talk to you next about, and that's Megatron. What were the similarities and differences between playing against Andre and Calvin Johnson, and maybe them as personalities too?
They both were really, really, really hard workers. They both practice hard. They both were big in the weight room. I used to watch both of them weigh in because my locker was right next to the scale in Houston and right by the scale almost in Detroit. And so I used to see those guys, Andre weighing in at, 230 pounds, Calvin Johnson weighing in at 240 pounds. Just like, wow, these guys are, incredible in size. Calvin was a little taller. I think Andre was a better route runner. I think Calvin was probably a better just bigger body, going up for fade balls. Houston didn't throw a lot of fade balls to Andre once we got into the red zone. And so if Andre wasn't scoring from 10 yards out, it was kind of difficult for him to get touchdowns. That's probably why his touchdowns number is not as high, because they didn't throw fades to Andre Johnson close to the red zone. But, Calvin Johnson, they're throwing it up. And he was just one of those guys that can go and get it. But as far as personalities, they both were kind of the same. They're just kind of quiet to themselves a little bit, going about their business, taking care of everything they need to take care of. It's a lot getting brought their way. They like to have a good time. Once they get to know you and they feel like they can trust you and let you in their circle, super cool guys. Calvin came on my DB room show a couple years ago, and I still talk to Andre now. He got some frames done the other week. Both of those guys are just super cool guys. But both of them work really, really hard and great football players, huge specimens. And like I said, I think Calvin was a little bit probably bigger, and probably would say had the 50-50 ball, bigger body type. But Andre probably was a better route runner.
That's interesting. Well, next guy I want to ask you about is sitting over my shoulder here, and you watched him as a rookie come into camp, JJ Watt. What did he do at first that you go, man, this guy's different? This guy's kind of special. What was the first thing that you started noticing? Like, this isn't the same. This isn't my normal defensive end here.
Well, he just had a personality for the fans. So from the minute he got there, he just, the fans took to him, and he knew how to entertain and work the crowd and stuff like that, even from training camp. But I remember being in practice, and generally in practice, they don't let you sack the quarterback. And so Schaub would step back to throw the ball, and JJ used to just knock down every pass, just almost like as defensive backs, we couldn't hardly get any work in. Like he's knocking down every pass almost. Thing is, you got in the games, he was doing the same exact thing. And I remember Coach Kubiak wanted to say something to him one day because we was trying to get some work in the secondary, and we couldn't because JJ was knocking down the ball every time. And it got to the point to where he was doing it so much in the games that Coach Kubiak was like, well, if you're going to do it in the games, I'm going to let you do it in practice because we're getting a realistic look at what it's like in the game. So, DBs being ready to catch tip balls and balls fluttering in the air because JJ done got his hands on it. And so we began to practice that way, and he was doing it in the game. He ended up catching a pick. I remember his first playoff game, I think he was playing against Cincinnati. He catches a pick right out of midair and returns it for a touchdown, right? So he was doing those things in practice from the beginning, and he was doing those things in the game as well.
Matt Schaub gets the Liz Frank injury in 2011. Texans fans remember that, that Ravens playoff loss and how frustrating that was. Be honest with me now, Glover. Do you guys beat the Ravens with a healthy Matt Schaub? How far do you go that year, do you think?
No question we win that game. No question. We win that game. I mean, we had a touchdown on the first play of the game.
Yeah.
We ran a bootleg, and Kevin Walters running wide open. I think Ed Reed was the safety, and he just knew it was going to be a run. So he was in the backfield almost getting ready to tackle Arian Foster, and we didn't win play action. But, TJ didn't see it or didn't want to pull the trigger, so he checks it down to the flat, and I think Ed Reed makes the tackle, and it's like he's celebrating, and we're sitting there like, man, we had a touchdown over the top. So I definitely think if we had Schaub that game, we win that game, and that was the second round. So once you win that one, you're into the AFC Championship game, and that year it would have been New England, I think. No, yeah, it would have been New England that year.
Yeah, it was New England, and then they ended up losing to the Giants in the Super Bowl, which that Giants team was not spectacular. I think it was a wild card team that went to the Super Bowl. So those were beatable teams, I guess. New England was always tough, but yeah.
I think both years we had the same kind of, the first year, Schaub being hurt. And then the second year, we kind of just tricked that one off because, we had played Baltimore in like week 6 or 7 and smashed those guys like 40-something to 13 or something like that. And then we got to the end of the season with 3 games left. We were already basically the 1 seed for the most part. All we had to do was win 1 game. I think we tricked off 3 games in a row or 2 games in a row. We lost to Minnesota down the stretch. We lost to Indy the last game of the season.
Was that the year of the Letterman jacket game when we played New England?
Mm-hmm.
Did the guys regret that at all after it happened, or just there's a lot more made of? You think there's a lot more made of that than
there was a lot more made of. I mean, we didn't. I mean, I think the main players they didn't. I didn't make anything of it.
Yeah, you don't think that necessarily incited the pay? It was just the Patriots were that good.
Yeah, I mean they had a scheme for us, and with Wade, they had Wade's number, and they game planned us and schemed for us. So that's how it was. I don't think it had anything to do with the Letterman jackets. I think they're just something to run with. After you've won the game, you can run with that now. But I don't think that was a motivating factor for those guys.
We talk about the Hall of Famers, J.J. Watt, Andre Johnson, Calvin Johnson. I mean, not just good Hall of Famers, but we're talking about some of the best Hall of Famers, I think, in that category. A guy that's not going to make the Hall of Fame, but probably would have if he'd stayed healthy, was Arian Foster. How good was Arian Foster at his peak?
He was good, man. He was a dynamic running back, and he was faster than a lot of people thought he was. If he broke loose in the open field, he was gone. He wasn't no catching him. He had a dynamic one cut, foot in the ground, and it was explosive. He had good patience. He was a perfect running back for that offense, and he was good at the backfield. He could catch the ball. Like he was good. He was one of those guys that was super, super legit. I must say he was good just watching him in practice and watching him in the games. We're sitting there wondering why we're not giving him the ball. Like, man, we need to run the ball. We need to run the ball. And you just knew that he was going to break something. 10-yarder, 5-yarder, 40-yarder. You're just waiting for him to get the ball and start running towards the sideline and boom, put his foot in the ground and he's exploding up the middle for 10, 15, 20 yards. So he was an incredible talent.
One of the things that I always thought he did so well, and you have a better idea than anybody because you watched it up close, but he just seemed to be this incredible anticipator. His vision and knew when and where to cut at that line of scrimmage and to find that hole. If you gave the Texans a third and short or a fourth and short, you were almost sure he was going to get you a first down.
No question. You felt that way, and like I said, you knew I remember playing against Oakland out there in Oakland. He breaks free and goes long way. So you knew he had the ability to go to the house. And so 3 or 4 yards, he was a bigger guy too. He's 230, 220. When we got short yardage, we felt very confident that Arian was going to get the job done. Him and running behind Vontae Leach at the time, like it's going to be tough to stop those guys from getting a yard or two.
You mentioned him earlier. What did Danielle Manning and Jonathan Joseph mean to your career?
At the time, Jonathan Joseph, he was, a veteran guy that, I learned a lot from. Even though he was a corner, I learned a lot from him just in playing the game and, my tempo and understanding certain things. D-Man was just he was super athletic. He knew what I could do as a player because we practiced together. He used to always just encourage me to be that guy because he knew I could do it. But just seeing how he played, how much fun he had, how he played with a motor. He was excited every day for practice, just excited all the time. You know what I'm saying? And so just seeing those things and seeing what it looks like from that standpoint, being around J-Joe and just his tempo, his demeanor when it comes to covering and playing and all these different things were just so cool to me. And I took a lot of things I learned from those guys on with me and added it to my toolbox, for the rest of my career.
You're co-hosting the Believe in Lions podcast with Jack Kavanaugh. What do you think of their offseason so far?
I think they've added some pieces where they need it. I think they retained some of the pieces that they needed. They upgraded supposedly a couple of pieces. I think they've had a pretty productive offseason. I think, you look at last year, I don't think they had any major mega superstars. I would say they had some stars, but I don't know if they had any mega superstars. And you see what they were able to do last year. So I think they try to do a good job of keeping a lot of those pieces and then bringing in some pieces to enhance those. And so they're really young in the secondary last year. The oldest guy was Tracy Walker, then he ended up getting hurt. And so they're really young in the secondary last year. So you see they went out this year. They signed Cameron Sutton from Pittsburgh. They signed the kid from San Francisco. They brought in C.J. Gardner-Johnson from Philly. So they brought in a veteran safety, 2 veteran corners to hopefully bring some stability to that room. Re-signed a couple linebackers, re-signed D lineman, re-signed wide receiver. Yeah, they lost the running back, but based off of the pay grade, they upgraded the running back because Jamal went to New Orleans and got 4-year, maybe, I think, something like that, 4.5, 5. And they gave Montgomery 6 a year, I think. So from that standpoint, it's like, okay, well, Jamal did what he did last year. This kid that they signed maybe he's even better. And so I think they feel like they upgraded the roster. I think they've had a pretty solid offseason. We'll see what happens with the draft and what they decide to do and how they continue to put this team together. But I think so far they've been doing a good job of finding pieces that fit the team for the most part. I'm still interested to see how C.J. Gardner-Johnson will be with the Detroit Lions and how Cameron Sutton will be and just some of the new guys that they brought in. It's always interesting to see how they start to gel and how they come together. But I think they've been doing a good job.
One last thing with the Lions before I let you go. Aaron Glenn, former Texan, coaching the defense there. You guys did not cross paths here in Houston, but you've had a chance to watch what he's done in Detroit. Is this guy a future head coach? And what's your impression of Aaron Glenn?
I mean, I think he, would deserve it. Will he get it? I don't know. It's today's NFL. I never played along with him, but I've met him, talked with him throughout my years here in Houston. Great guy, hard worker. Does things the right way. So do I think at some point he would deserve a head coaching gig? Yes. Do I think he would probably get it? It'd be tough because
he was in the discussion for sure, I think, this offseason.
He definitely would be in a discussion. And, hopefully somebody pulls the trigger and give him an opportunity. When you look at the teams that he played for, the Jets probably like, Robert Saleh right now, and I can't root against Robert Saleh. That's my guy. And then obviously Houston has DeMeco Ryans. So those are, like two inside organizations that he played for that, kind of could be an easier path. So he just got to continue to do what he's doing, and hopefully his defense has another good year, be better than they were last year, and you can continue to see the growth in him as a coordinator and this and that, and, everything work out. He should get a head coaching opportunity at some point.
I hope so. Love Aaron Glenn, loved him here in Houston. Go check out Glover's podcast, Believe in Lions. Hit him up on Twitter at Glover Quin Jr. That's Glover Quin Jr. Thanks so much for giving us a few minutes, Glover. And notice, Glover, I made no mention of Hail Marys in Jacksonville. No mention of that at all.
Oh, man. You know what? I don't even have a problem with that stuff, man. That's just a part of my history. That's a part of my makeup. That's a part of what makes me who I am, man. It happened. Did I like it? No. But hey, 2 weeks later.
It was frustrating because you did what you were supposed to do.
I did what I was supposed to do. I did what I was supposed to do, and it is what it is. But that was a tough stretch. 2 weeks in a row. I had the Hail Mary 1 week, came back the next week. We playing against the Jets, and I break my hand in that game. Didn't know it was broke, so I'm finishing up the game, and then Santonio Holmes catches a touchdown on an all-out blitz at the end of the game, and we lose that game. So 2 games in a row, I've been on the losing end of like the game-winning touchdown. And then I come back to third game. I never lost who I was, my confidence, and come back to third game, cast on my hand, catch 3 interceptions. So, hey, man, sometimes you got to go through the hard stuff to get to the good part, man. So
yeah, you went through it. You got to the Pro Bowl and did some great things along the way, man. Incredible career. Can't tell you how much it means to me that you took some time to do this, and good luck with the show. Hopefully we can catch up sometime down the road, man. Thanks a lot.
All right, man. No problem.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.
Hey, don't forget to support us by subscribing and commenting on YouTube. You can always listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast app. Tell your friends about us and share our show links on social media. Spread the word, everybody. Thanks for listening.